What's going on, everyone? Kurt Weidner here, and I decided I'm going to go ahead and start doing some question and answer sessions. I had several people already submit a bunch of questions that I'm going to tackle. I'll probably try to keep these smaller videos to just address one or two questions at a time, maybe three, and then do the other ones in separate videos. So I decided we're going to go ahead and call this Ask the Animal. So here we are with session 1 of Ask the Animal. And my buddy Taylor had a couple questions, so I'm going to start with his. So first question is thoughts on intermittent fasting for building muscle versus feeding the body every 3 hours, and if fasting is better, how could someone with high caloric needs fit that into a small feeding window while maintaining eating healthy foods? So let's start off by just kind of roughly defining what intermittent fasting is. Essentially, intermittent fasting is a non-conventional, non-traditional pattern of eating. And so when I say, a pattern of eating, I mean, most of us look at eating, 3 to 6 times, depending on the individual, within a 24-hour period. Whereas, with intermittent fasting, you're going to go a period of not eating at all, basically, not giving any calories to the body for a certain period, and that period can vary depending on how you set this up. For instance, one way in which you could implement intermittent fasting would be not eating for 16 hours and then follow that by an 8-hour feeding window. There are different ways to do it. That's just one. Personally, this isn't something that I've ever implemented. It's not something I plan on implementing. Reasons for that. I do think it's intriguing. I have done some reading and watched several interviews of people who have talked about it and people who are proponents of it. So I'm not trying to dismiss it or say that it doesn't have any merit. Some of the potential proposed health benefits are increased insulin sensitivity, autophagy, which has to do with cell repair. Some people will utilize it as a form of weight loss, getting leaner, mental acuity, release of growth hormone. So, there have been documented benefits for intermittent fasting. However, I would probably argue that a lot of the benefits of this approach could also be seen under more of a traditional approach. So I don't think one is either right or wrong. I think you got to figure out what essentially works best for you. I like eating on most days, roughly on average 5 times a day. I mean, sometimes on the weekends it'll come down to 4. That's actually dropped considerably from where I was years ago, where at one point I would eat 7 meals a day, that's not necessary. During my prep, when I'm restricting calories, I find it more beneficial to actually eat more frequently. So I would do 6 meals a day, sometimes on the weekends 5. Right now, on average, I eat 5 meals a day, and sometimes on a weekend it might only be 4 meals. That's what works best for me. Now, having said that, I have the luxury and freedom of being able to eat whenever I want to. So I don't have a job that restricts when I can eat, how much I can eat at those times. I think for certain, modalities and certain, people in certain careers, that something like intermittent fasting could not only be beneficial, but probably optimal, because it's not ideal or even feasible at all to eat on a consistent basis. And so, if you look at somebody who's in law enforcement, military, medical, whether it's somebody in medical school, or a surgeon, a lot of these people are in situations with their jobs where they may go long periods of time in which they either don't know when they're going to have a chance to eat, or things could just get, completely thrown awry at work, and they're going to have a period where they're not going to be able to eat for a while. And so, number one, it might be easier to actually plan just to not eat during that period where you're working. and so that they can consistently get, the nutrition in while they can. But also, it might be optimal for them to actually condition their bodies to be able to handle a situation in which they're not going to see any calories for a significant period of time. And from a consistency standpoint, they can count on a certain period during which they know they're not going to be at work and they're going to be able to consume calories. Now, with respect to the second part of the question, that is going to be the trick. Somebody with high calorie needs, fitting that into a small feeding window. I think a lot of it depends on how you structure your day. And so that's something that you're going to have to determine. So, if I were just to take myself, for instance, if I'm getting up at, 5:36 in the morning and, working throughout the day and training after work, I would normally have at least 3 meals prior to my afternoon workout. Now, if I were going to, implement intermittent fasting, and I were to fast, like let's say I get up, the beginning of my fast starts when I go to bed. And so I obviously don't have any food throughout the night until I wake. And then I would probably fast until the early afternoon. And what would normally be my pre-workout meal at about 2:30 in the afternoon would be my first meal, high carbs, high protein, and a decent amount of fat. Get a workout in, and then I'd probably try to quickly get a shake that has both high protein, high carbs, and then as big a meal as I can. So looking at that in the window that I would have, it would be, I think, very challenging for me to get my caloric needs in that limited number of meals, and without having to eat just an enormous amount at one time, which I don't know that I personally would want to do. So, if you're going to take that approach, I would say, whether you're using some type of you need some type of macro tracker. Now, I have my own spreadsheet that I plug all my foods into so I can see exactly what I'm getting. But you're going to have to figure out exactly, how many calories you're going to get, and figure out what your macronutrients, what your macronutrient needs are, and how you're going to hit those, and when you're able to consistently hit them in that period of time. Like with anything, whether, your goal is to lose weight or to get stronger, put on muscle, consistency is key. You can get results from a lot of different approaches, but you're not going to get the results unless, you're consistent, and you have to track. So you have to know, a lot of people say, I can't gain weight or I can't lose weight. But in truth, they don't actually have any idea how many calories. If you ask them how many grams of protein, carbs, fat, fiber you take in a day on average for a week, they probably couldn't answer that. Some people might be able to, but if you can't identify those things, then you can't really determine whether the program you're using is effective or optimal. So you got to be consistent with those things, and regardless of whether you're going to utilize intermittent fasting or you're going to use a more traditional approach of eating several times throughout the day from when you wake until you go to bed. You got to choose a plan, and you got to stick to it. So you got to decide, okay, this is my plan starting off. I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to train at this time. I'm going to eat at this time. This is what I'm going to eat. This is how much I'm going to eat. You're going to weigh your food. You can track your macros, and you can write everything down, and you determine after a period of time, hey, what kind of results am I getting? And if you have some hard data to deal with, you can actually, analyze it. Is this working or is it not working? What elements need to be changed? What do I need to adjust? And every individual is different. So, and like I said, intermittent fasting might be optimal for some and not for others. For myself, it's not something that I'm going to do. But again, I'm a bodybuilder. My primary goals are to, increase strength, hypertrophy, and anaerobic capacity. So I don't see it as being optimal for me. So anyway, second question that Taylor asked was sets and rep schemes for people trying to build strength with limited amounts of equipment and weight, more specifically set and rep schemes and movements to accomplish that. So, I don't think that there's some magical number of sets and rep schemes that work. Essentially, my approach to training is to constantly change it. I think that if you keep things too much the same, your body is likely to kind of adapt, and then you're not going to grow. If you're always doing sets of 5, or you're always doing sets of 8, or always doing sets of 10, then at some point you become too efficient at doing that, and so you're not going to build more strength or build more muscle. So and I think one of the principles behind daily undulating periodization, which is something that some of us have instinctually done well before they ever came up with that fancy name, is that you're constantly changing what you're doing each workout. So I'll have multiple lower body workouts in the same week. And, with my squats and with my deadlifts, every single time I go in, I'm going to adjust the way in which I do them. And so not only, the rep schemes as far as, maybe I'm going to do sets of 5 or do sets of 8 or sets of 6 or 10 or 12 or 20, maybe the tempo, I might do pauses, I might use a box, I might, do fast reps, I might incorporate chains, I might incorporate bands. So I think my suggestion would be on all your big movements, for every body part, that you should, you come up with a different goal for yourself each time. And, within a training period, and each person's training period is defined differently. Some people, their training period is a week. Some people might, look at their training period as a 10-day cycle or a 2-week cycle or whatever. And then that's all the things that you're going to accomplish before you come full circle and start over again. So, within that training cycle, whatever it be, it could be 3 days, 4 days, 10 days, I think you should have a lot of variance in your rep scheme. So come up with different patterns to do, so that each time you're having a different type of challenge. And you also, in my opinion, you get the best of all worlds there, because you not only build some strength and some power with some of the lower reps and some of your more controlled reps, but you're going to get some hypertrophy. You're going to get some anaerobic endurance, and they all can kind of complement each other. So you're not becoming overly one-dimensional. And again, you got to determine what's best for you as an individual with respect to your goals, because if you're a power lifter, obviously you're not overly concerned with hypertrophy or anaerobic endurance, so you may not need to do sets of 15 and 20. However, if you're a bodybuilder, you do. Maybe you're aiming to be more of a hybrid athlete where you do want to have that mix. And so those are the things that you need to think about, when you want to figure out what kind of rep schemes you do want to incorporate. So I know that answer is somewhat vague, but, like I said, my ultimate answer is you should mix it up as much as you can. To give you an idea, to provide some specifics, let's look at squats. Probably my favorite all-time exercise. I have a whole bunch of different kind of preset workouts that I will do on squats to challenge myself. So, for instance, one is a pyramid of 15s that I do all my warm-ups, and then I start at 315 for 15 reps. I've gone to 335, 355, back to 335, back to 315. So this is a brutal workout because it combines moving a decent amount of weight. It's not, compared to what I've squatted, not super heavy, but it's not light either. When you're doing that kind of volume, it's a lot of weight for a lot of reps, and that's kind of the idea there. So it's kind of that middle ground. Now, you know, I may on other times do like 5 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 6 with higher weight, and either do complete pauses in the bottom without a box or with a box, depending on you know, whether I'm trying to target more posterior chain or more quads. Now, sometimes I'll go on the other end of the spectrum where I'm doing, you know, I want to just go for more conditioning and hypertrophy, and I'll do a pyramid of 20s where I'll do my warm-ups, and then I'll start with 225 for 20, and every set I add 20 pounds. I'll basically throw a set of 10s on each side. So 225 for 20, 245 for 20, 265 for 20, 285 for 20, and I try to climb as high as I can. The best I've been able to do is go up to about 315 for 20, and then come back down and do 225 for 20. So a lot of sets, a lot of reps, but the weight is much easier. So the rest in between sets is you know, much lower. It's a different type of workout. You know, other workouts I might do 5 sets of 12 or 10 sets of 10. You know, there's a whole bunch of different, you know, type of rep schemes that you can come up with. And I think ultimately, as long as you're challenging yourself and you're changing the challenge each time you step into the gym, that's the most important thing. And like I said, you can also, you know, throw other variables in there, like variable resistance using chains or bands. It adds a whole different dimension entirely. And so the more you can kind of manipulate all those different variables so you're getting a different effect each time you go in, the better off you are. So hopefully that answers your questions, and hopefully that helps. That's about 17 minutes, so I'm going to cap this one off here, but look forward to more of these question and answer sessions. Ask the Animal. If you have questions, send me a message. If you like the content, please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Instagram as well. If there's anything particular you want to see content-wise, let me know. Have a great one, people.